Good morning, dear students. We have already done classical conditioning in our previous session. This particular topic that has been taken up today is operant conditioning. This type of conditioning was first investigated by B.F. Skinner, who studied the occurrence of voluntary responses when an organism operates on the environment. He calls them operants because they are those behavior which are emitted by animals or by human beings voluntarily and are under their control. The term operant is used because the organism operates on the environment. So the conditioning of this operant behavior, which is executed when the organism operates in the environment, is referred to as operant conditioning. Skinner experimented with rats and pigeons in specially designed boxes, which were known as the Skinner box. A hungry rat is placed inside the chamber, as you can see from this particular slide, which was built so that the rat could move inside but could not come out. In the chamber, there was a lever, and when this lever was pressed, then in that case, the food pellet would drop on a plate close to the lever, as you can see from here. So this behavior is executed by the rat, that when he starts pawing around the walls or he explores the walls, he accidentally presses the lever and a food pellet drops on the plate. So hungry rat eats it. In the next trial, after a while, the exploratory behavior again starts. Again, when the trials increase, the rat takes lesser and lesser time to press the lever for food. So the conditioning is complete only when the rat presses the lever immediately after it is placed inside the chamber. So it is obvious that the pressing of the lever is an operant response, as the rat is operating in the environment and getting the food is the consequence. So again, as I was telling you, that Skinner had started conducting scientific experiments on animals, especially rats and pigeons, who were put in a specially designed box called the Skinner box, which contained a lever for the rats, and for the pigeons, there was a disc or a key so that the animal could press or peck for a food reward via the dispenser. So the speakers and lights can be associated with certain behavior. A recorder was placed which counted the number of responses made by the animal. So what is operant conditioning? It is a form of learning where the behavior is learned, maintained, or changed through its consequences. These consequences are called reinforcers. The idea that learning is the result of consequences is based on the law of effect, which was first proposed by the psychologist Edward Thorndike. Just like that, we learn our course material, or we learn our academic course material mainly because the consequence is the result that we obtain at the school level examination or at the board level examination. Now, what is a reinforcer? Reinforcer is one of the determinants of operant conditioning. It is defined as any stimulus or event which increases the probability of a desired response. For example, if there is a small child and he has been able to write a letter A for the first time, and if he is given a small recognition in the form of a star on his hand, he becomes immediately happy. And what happens in the next few events, you will find that he is doing his work quickly and he is grasping the letters quickly because he wants to get that desired response of being appreciated. So what are the features influencing the course of operant conditioning? First is positive and negative reinforcement, the number or the frequency, the quality of reinforcement, the nature of the response or behavior that has to be conditioned, and the time interval that lapses between the occurrence of the response and the reinforcement also influences operant learning. Types of reinforcement, as the determinant of operant conditioning involves two types of reinforcement. One is a positive reinforcement and the other is a negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement involves stimuli that have pleasant consequences. On the other hand, negative reinforcers involve unpleasant and painful stimuli. So, positive reinforcement will always strengthen your response, whereas the negative reinforcement will lead the organisms to escape them or to get rid of painful stimuli. For example, a punishment given to a student, right? He would like to avoid the punishment in future. So, he would definitely learn the better way of behavior or the better way of doing his work. Positive reinforcers, on the other hand, satisfy your requirements like food, water, medals, praise, money, status, etc. So again, you can see the difference between positive and negative reinforcement, where you add a desirable stimulus or you remove the undesirable stimulus, and it strengthens the behavior, right? It helps us to behave in a particular manner. It works as a motivation, it works as a lesson. Number of reinforcement and other features. This refers to the number of trials which an organism has been reinforced or rewarded. The amount of reinforcement means how much of reinforcing stimulus one receives on each trial, and the quality of reinforcement refers to the kind of reinforcer. Now, students, if I give you maybe peanuts when you are performing so well, the quality of reinforcement is very, very poor. But on the other hand, if I give you a chocolate or a piece of cake, it is a very good reinforcer. So the course of operant conditioning is usually accelerated to an extent as the number, amount, and quality of reinforcement increases. Now we come to the next topic, which is schedules of reinforcement. Schedule, that means setting a time period or an arrangement of the delivery of reinforcement during the time when you are doing the conditioning. Each schedule influences the course of conditioning in its own way, and thus conditioned responses occur with differential characteristics. Let us understand the various schedules of reinforcement. The first type of schedule is a continuous reinforcement. That means you reward a person and every time he executes a desired response. Then in contrast to that, we have partial or intermittent reinforcement, which is like you sometimes reinforce his behavior. Even when he produces a desired response, you may not reinforce him. So it has been found that partial reinforcement or intermittent reinforcement produces greater resistance to extinction than is in the case of continuous reinforcement, which means that the learned response does not get erased completely because of this partial reinforcement. It resists the extinction or the complete removal of the learned response. Then we come to something which is called delayed reinforcement. So here you can see the difference between continuous and partial reinforcement. Desired behavior is reinforced every time it occurs. Most effective behavior once a behavior has been established. Most effective when teaching a new behavior. New behavior is less likely to disappear. He will remember, right? So there is a strong association created between behavior and response, but partial reinforcement schedules are available to suit individual needs. Delayed reinforcement, as I was talking about, is the delay that you execute in the delivery of reinforcement that leads to a poorer level of performance. It can be easily shown by asking children which reward they will prefer for doing some particular activity. Smaller rewards given immediately after doing that activity will be preferred rather than a big reward after the long gap. So with this, we come to an end to the reinforcement and its determinants. In the next session, I'll take up the key learning processes.